In the first reading today, we hear from the book of Tobit about a situation where Tobit had at one point picked up somebody who was dead and buried them. Have to remember that according to Jewish law, a person has to be buried on the very day that they die. They have to be buried by sunset. And so it's not like our situation these days where things are getting very prolonged after someone dies, but it has to be very, very quick. And since no one was doing anything, out of charity, Tobit went, picked up the dead body, buried him, and of course then was accused of having killed the man. Having been acquitted of that, now here's somebody else who dies. Tobit goes and does the exact same thing. People think this guy's a nut. What's wrong with him? He was just accused of this, and now he's doing it again. And it's a great lesson to all of us because it's easy for us to do something charitable and then get slapped for it and then think, well, then forget it. Why should I be charitable? If I'm just going to be ridiculed for it or I'm going to be rejected or whatever it is, then forget it. I don't want anything to do with this. It's the wrong attitude. And that's the point for us to look at. If we're going to be charitable, which is exactly what we are supposed to be doing, then it's all the time. And obviously charity is going to take a variety of different ways. Sometimes being charitable is just smiling at someone and saying hello. Sometimes being charitable is having to go out of your way to help somebody. Whatever it might be, in this case, obviously something rather extraordinary, picking up a dead body and bringing it to be buried. And understand again, according to Jewish law, as soon as Tobit touched that dead body, he became unclean from a ritual perspective. So he was putting himself out not only as just simply a matter of charity, but knowing what kind of effect this was going to have on himself. So too for us. If there is an act of charity that needs to be done, sometimes it's going to put us out. And we recognize that. And maybe God is testing us to be able to see, are we really going to do the right thing? Are we really going to be charitable in this situation when it's inconvenient? If you have nothing to do and somebody wants something rather pleasant or help with something rather pleasant, oh, that's pretty easy. No problem. But when it's something that's difficult, something that would require more of us, that becomes more difficult. And then we have to discern what is God's will in this. Because remember, the devil is very good at throwing up stuff. If you are going to be trying to do what's good, and the devil can't get you to do something bad, then he's going to give you lots and lots and lots of good things just to keep you from doing the best thing. So we always have to discern. But if we recognize that there truly is an act of charity that needs to be done, then we have to be willing to put aside our own ideas, our own time frame, whatever it might be. We need to act in charity. In a situation like Tobit, that was going to come with consequences. People were going to make fun of him. People were going to accuse him. People were going to misunderstand what he was doing. So they might with us too. We still have to do the right thing. Look at the gospel, and our Lord is saying, look, this man built this vineyard, and he put tenants in it, and he's looking for the produce. Well, right now, that's you and me. God is looking for the produce. What are we doing? Now, we could look back to the Old Testament times and say, yeah, he sent in the prophets, and they beat them, and they killed them, and they didn't care. Yeah, we're not quite doing that. The question is, are we listening? Are we paying attention? Are we acting on what it is that God is asking of us? That's the real question. Because we not only live in a very, very selfish society, but most of us, we don't like things that are inconvenient to us. And so we need to look at it and ask, is God's will inconvenient? Oftentimes it is. He's going to ask us to do things that are hard. He's going to put things in when we don't have time. He's going to ask that we die to ourselves so that we can live for another. Exactly what our Lord did when he came into this world. So if we don't want to be beating and killing and rejecting the prophets, spiritually speaking, then we need to listen to them. We need to do what it is that God is asking of us. That's what we all have to look at. That's what Tobit was about. His whole life he was about that. And it cost him a lot to do God's will. And it will us too. And yet it will gain us immensely. It will make us saints. It's going to bring us to heaven. So who cares if people make fun of us here? Who cares if people want to ridicule us? Who cares if people hate us? Who cares if people accuse us? Just do what is right. Strive to do the will of God. It really is just that simple. It's not always easy to figure out the will of God, but nonetheless, that's what we have to be about. Most of us, we want to do our own will. We want to do what we have decided. We give lip service to doing God's will, but we really don't want to do it. That's the part we need to really look at. Do I want to do God's will? We have the prophets. We have the Son of God. He came into this world and he told us and he taught us what it is that we're to do. So if we're going to ignore him, that's to our own detriment. So we want to listen, we want to pay attention, and most importantly, we want to act on what it is that our Lord is asking us to do.